All right, guys. So, welcome to the PF Music Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, topics and episodes going to be 137 from the PF Music Podcast. You listen to the podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and BitChute. Make sure that you subscribe. You listen to the podcast on Anchor.fm, Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. With the simple play, you're going to help the podcast, and I'm going to really appreciate it. Episode of today, 137 from the PF Music Podcast. There's no enemy within that the enemy outside can do no harm. When there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do is no harm. I remember listening to this first proverb back in 2014, I think it was, when I started listening to um Les Brown. I remember listening to that proverb, and it really summarized a lot of things in my life. In that point, 2014, I was finishing my master's degree, moving down to Wyoming alone, and I was facing a lot of uh, internal conflict, and it was a new opportunity for me since I was gonna be independent for the first time. Um, I wanted to experience new things, but I was going through a lot. So therefore, just knowing that um, a lot of challenges might be in the way, and you know, knowing that fear can be there, made me feel like I was going through a lot of turmoil and scared. So the African proverb that reads is, "When there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do no harm." It's basically refusing the that your doubts are in your mind uh will ever determine what you're gonna do in life. Also, you can see it as anything that is outside of you can do you no harm, but those enemy that is inside your being, your mind, are the greatest threat. Okay, and there's a lot of things that there's a lot of these proverbs that you can find online. I just simply did a super Google search, and the first one of the first name that popped was Les Brown, right? And this was the first time that he put it was 2010. And interesting enough, there's no a lot of retweets when you go in his Twitter. I don't know if that's his tweet or Twitter account, but there's not a lot. And there's other like Eric Thomas. I think Jim Brown mentioned something like that, similar. Vincent Norman 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 Vincent Norman Peale, I think his name is. I forgot his name. He mentioned about that, and we go back in the Bible. When 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 you're when you are the son of the flesh, then Satan is your daddy. It's the same thing. You become of the flesh. You mean that you become the things that are exterior, and therefore they can just suck your soul. Now, why we speak about basically internal issues more often than external issues, even though one lead to the other, right? Internal issues are things that you cannot really comprehend until you start knowing yourself. Are the hardest thing that you can control or experience, right? Reach, let's say, because there's internal emotions, right? Emotions, most of the times, is just a lot of behaviors that are accumulated, and therefore you have a response to certain things. Now, the external things you can control it better, right? If I don't want to drink water, I just don't drink water. If I don't want to drink soda, I just don't drink soda. I can drink water, so on and so forth. Just to give you an example. Now, for the internal issue, right? It's the impulse, it's the necessity, it's the devil crawling through your bed. All these things, right? And I'm not saying literally the devil's just crawling through your bed. It's just a saying that you're in your bed and you're thinking about things, and all of a sudden your mind just go to this deep deep side of the woods where you never thought you could. I remember when I was doing the nofap, when I was in those 30 days or 40 days, man, I would just feel, oh, I would basically feel my body going through a lot, right? Me crawling, just going around. It was bad. It was bad. But thank God I managed to just go through it, right? Because that's the enemy within, right? That's the real enemy for me. The external enemy, as soon as that inner enemy is fixed, the external can move flexor, right? More flexible. Even though before I can move it around, but it was not flexible. Now that I deal with my internal issues, I'm more flexible to move around, right? I feel lighter. I can move sideways. That's an interesting thing. Um, a lot of these things, right, is what really holds you back, right? Because in order for us to just move forward, right, we have to just keep a momentum, right? That just keep going forward. Now, there's things that are gonna be in the way, which we call obstacles. Now, these obstacles are those enemy within, right? Since we have those enemy within, right? Our mission is to make sure we get through them, get through them, right? Maybe our routine is really pushing us back, so we need to break the routine. Maybe you've been living in New York all your life. Maybe you need to go to a different state. Maybe you need to go to a different country, right? To experience certain things, just to break from that routine, right? Um, the reason I talk about this is I think it's more important than anything else. And back in the day when I used to do pickup artists or dating, I used to practice a lot of outer game, right? Now the inner game really started later to really make sense. So the outer game was the approach, time constraint, building the story hook. Uh, it was hook, and what was the other one? Rapport, and getting the close, right? The number. Now that was good, and I could have just I used to pick up a lot of numbers and stuff like that. But there was always the inner game was a problem. Why was a problem? Because I was relying myself too much on emotions, even though it was not look like that. I was relying myself way, 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 way too much into emotions. And I had some experience. I had some bad experience, good experience, but never what I wanted. Because the real issue was not outside, it was inside. And the more I was just going through my mind, I noticed a lot of problems. Problems that are right now very harmful and very bad. And since I confronted that, I never noticed how bad it was until I just got rid of one, and then all of a sudden you have another one, another one, another one. And I think I was talking about this yesterday about how these problems need to be seen as ore, like an onion. An onion has different layers, right? And then all of a sudden when you take out the first layer, there's more, right? And more, and more, and more, and more, and more until it gets very small. Still onion, but it gets very small. And that's how you see inner conflicts. And in a way where it's it's like an onion. It's an enemy that you always trying to just decipher. Never ends. Has its own understanding. But it's up to you to understand where it needs to stop. And it goes back when you were a kid and you never noticed. Small experience, a video that you saw, your parents doing some stuff, right? Your brother when you were in school, right? Those enemy, those doubts, you behaving a certain way because you didn't want society to pressure you to do certain things, or you were perceiving things very differently. Maybe you felt the shame of your family, therefore you were doing things differently. You were trying to fit in. You were trying to just fit into the cool guys or the cool kids. Sometimes what happens is we still hold on to all these things, right? And interesting enough, we never managed to just really get to the point on this. It's something that I noticed in a couple days is how important it is to deal with trauma, because what happens is if you don't deal with this trauma, they get worse by the time goes on. Bad, they get very bad, because you notice this the more years okay, so the more the years goes by, you start thinking that things can get better, and especially with your family, your friends, and stuff like that. That all of a sudden time will fix things. That's not how thing it is. Things are fixed when you start fixing yourself. Not fixing like putting pads and stuff like that, like understanding yourself. And most of the time, you're gonna realize that a lot of these things that are put into your body is poison that has been just put in your water. So therefore, you have to start cleaning yourself now. Now, cleaning yourself now, it will probably take years. Years. That's the battle within. It's a constant battle. And by the time you take yourself to just do this for years, you know, you're gonna see difference. But it should never stop. It's never an end to that. Okay. So just to recap, where there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do is no harm. Can do you no harm. I'm sorry. It's true. It's true. As soon as you understand how this guy right here should not or should not affect you, your thoughts, you should be faster with your thought. You should be, you know, have your left hook ready for your thoughts. Always your enemy. Remember all the idea that you're supposed to just get it done, but you never did because you're a thought. That's why. The enemy is always inside and not on the outside. With this, guys, this is what episode 137 from the PF Music Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You listen to the podcast on YouTube, Rumble Beach. Make sure you subscribe. You listen to the podcast on Anchor.fm. I will really appreciate it with Simple Play. With this, guys, episode 137. When there is no enemy within, there is no enemy outside. Can you? Is no harm. Thank you.